I just happen to be right often. It doesn't move me one way or another.
KW,
it's not my lifeblood.
KW, I was trying to have your back. Brew has been coming at you. Brew was tweeting about you yesterday. I sent it to you. You double tagged him.
You didn't see it?
I don't follow you.
See,
It's a show that's wishing LeBron and Tiger Woods a happy birthday before you guys hide.
What a day for sports.
Happy 50, and I think Sandy Koufax.
Oh, shout out to Sandy Koufax.
Yeah.
Yes, he's 90, I think.
Sandy Koufax 90, Tiger 50, LeBron 41.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, December 30th. Yeah.
Amazing.
You
Happy
could
birthday
argue
to
the
you,
best ever. You could argue that for all three sports. Some people argue he's the best pitcher ever.
They're all arguably
I believe
in there.
Tiger is clearly the best golfer ever. Obviously, LeBron's in the argument. I believe so.
They're all arguable.
They're all
you don't
arguable.
think so?
If you're a football player born today, step your game up.
What's Jim Brown's birthday, Josh? We got to find out.
We start with the mighty Rams. 5 losses, 3 interceptions for everybody's All-American. On the winning side, Bijan unstoppable, almost 230
Classic
total
one.
yards.
That's my guy. No one can deny
That
it.
was so long
Bijan.
ago, we
What do you mean?
forgot.
I called him
forgot.
Offensive Player of the Year as a rookie.
If Ashton Genty
3 years
runs
ago.
for 1,000 yards
Yes, he
in 10
gets that.
years, we're not giving him credit for
This
it.
is his 3rd year. He's been great.
I might not win $1 million, but I can break this out. Stafford has struggled against coaches and coordinators who are on the Rams, Evero and Morris,
they know
both
him.
Rams assistants, yeah.
They know
so he
him.
really takes a
Wow.
drop there. Isn't that good
That's
from Josh?
interesting.
Nick, you literally had an affair with the Rams.
Yeah.
Are you worried?
Well, it turned into more than an affair.
What, a torrid affair?
That's
I
his
let-
official side chick.
I moved,
That's what I'm
not,
saying.
and
And right now, it's actually
I
the
moved
main-
out.
yeah.
I moved out on the Bucks and shacked up. And to keep that analogy going, I worry it's not them, it's me. Because I think I have.
Wait, what?
I'm not abandoning the Rams at all. I'm worried they may abandon me because I've realized something. Because everybody knows my real love is in the AFC is the Chiefs.
Of course.
And I think because of that, my NFC team every year
Is atrocious.
befalls awful luck. Since we've been doing the show,
Okay.
I picked the Niners to go to the Super Bowl. Their quarterback broke his leg in the 2nd week of the season that year. They then
That
ended
was
up
with Jimmy G.
No, it was Trey Lance. It was when they had moved on.
okay.
It was the idea was they can make the Super Bowl with Jimmy G. They can make it with anybody. The quarterback breaks his leg.
And he wasn't that
Their
good
then
either.
backup quarterback Jimmy G gets hurt. They end up, and then they still make it all the way to the conference championship game. And Brock Purdy gets his elbow messed up. They lose. The next year, I picked the Cowboys.
Oh.
They have a great season. They win 12 games. And then I believe ran a quarterback draw or had Ezekiel Elliott play center. One of the 2 ways they lost.
That was a weird one.
The next year, I picked the Bears.
That was more.
That was
team
really bad.
fired their coach, which allowed me then to switch to the Rams, who lost in heartbreaking fashion again in the playoffs. This year I picked the Bucks. They're 5-1, flying high. A meltdown that honestly probably we should focus on a little bit more. What has happened to the Bucks after the 6-2 start, how they've played.
They can still make it, though.
They can still make it, but they can't make
They're
the
not
Super
gonna
Bowl.
do anything.
And I attach myself to the Rams, and the moment I do, they lose to the Seahawks involving a punt return, a reverse, and an incomplete pass 2-point conversion that worked, and then this game. So I'm worried about them in part because of me. I'm also worried about them because of this, Brew, in all seriousness. I believe they are the most talented team in the NFC, and I believe they will have pretty clearly the best quarterback and the quarterback I trust the most in the NFC. But their path has now gotten so much more difficult than it looked like it was going to be. And Sean McVay Rams teams against playoff teams in cold weather are like 2-8. Like so Sean McVay, since he's been with the Rams, those teams against good teams in bad weather, or not bad weather, but cold. And they are, they still can get the 5 seed if they win and the Niners lose on Saturday night.
That's possible.
But and I honestly would like their chances in a game against Philadelphia in round 1. But they're staring at potentially just nothing but road games and nothing but tough opponents. So I still think they're the best team in the NFC. The Seahawks are probably the best team, but the team that I would trust the most in the playoffs. But this path has gotten so difficult ever since that 2-point conversion that ended up being was. It seemed to have flipped the season for them.
Well, look, this is why this show, for some reason, more than any show I've seen, is in love with the Rams. You, Danny Parkins.
Wild
this is why I've
never kept saying it. That
jumped on the Rams are all that bandwagon.
Why?
Now, they're a good team. They're a good team in a conference full of good playoff teams. I wouldn't be shocked if they come out, but I think they're pretty good like everybody else. But the problem, Nick, and you touched on it, is the road. They're going to be on the road for the playoffs, and guess what? They are 5-4 on the road. That is tied for the worst record among teams that have won 11 or more games. The Bears are the other team.
Yep.
All right, so they on the road, they lost to the Niners with their backup quarterback. Who is that again?
Excellent. Mac Jones, yeah. Go ahead.
They lost to Carolina, which is decent, but they're not.
But that also
great.
might be who they play in round 1 in Carolina.
Yeah, in Carolina, right. And they're good at home, and the Rams are bad at it. And then they lost to Atlanta. So I know Atlanta is a very disappointing team this year. I think probably could have been the best team in that division. But the fact is, on the road, they struggle. And Matthew Stafford, still good on the road, but not the same quarterback by any stretch. Completion percentage goes down. Touchdown, he throws far more interceptions on the road.
He's still
good, but he's not.
I would take that.
Oh, you would take it, but it's not what he is at home.
That's right.
And that's all I'm saying. And so, look, I am not writing them off, but I think they're one of just the handful of teams out in the NFC that has a shot.
Is it fair to say you think every team that makes the NFC playoffs other than the NFC South?
Yeah, other than the NFC South.
Bears, Packers, Eagles, 3 NFC West teams.
Yes, and I feel like San Francisco and Chicago are a little below the others, but the Niners, if they beat Seattle, then I might become a full-time believer.
Stafford had an aberration game with 3 interceptions. The Rams defense has just been bad in these last 5 games. First 11 games, remember, they were like, hold on, they've got the best defense in the league. Last 5 games, 28th, yards per play, 29th. Big plays, 26th. They used to be 5th. Passer rating, 4th to 25th. So, defense wins championships. When they were number 1 and number 1 or, top 3 in both, they were rolling. Now they've fallen off a cliff here.
And you can't point to one Micah went out type of, you know what I mean? It's not one guy missing that's coming back. So that is concerning. It also, that Seattle game, Stafford played as well as any player has played, I believe, in any game all year, given who the defense was. Throwing for 450 and 3 touchdowns against that defense. I thought he played, that was his version of going Superman mode, and they lost.
Yep.
And so it also feels like last night, if ESPN had sent 1 fewer camera to the game, we would have gotten overtime. Because Puka made the catch of the year from 7 different angles until we saw the one, which is a bummer. I don't love it, but that's a discussion for.
But it wasn't a catch.
And wait for Greg. Jugglers. Are they in control of the balls? Am I in control of this? Oops,
no, you're not.
But am I in control of this the whole time?
So,
I do hear you, because I think the ball moving doesn't always
That's the thing. I agree.
He's
still. I know he's not touching it, but he's in control of it. I know it sounds crazy.
I don't know about that one.
The problem there is
his feet by the point.
Right. The problem is, if that were in the field of play, that ends up being a catch.
Yes.
Right. But it's just because since he's out of bounds in the feet. Yeah. But I also, man, oh man, this is a 10 out of 10 throw. And honest to God,
That's
one of the greatest catches I've ever seen.
Yes, that's
It's his left hand. He kept his feet in. He got to the sticks. But that's the
so
margins.
If they call
in
that
this
and they
league.
kick a field goal, they win in overtime. We wouldn't be like, oh, there are issues with the Rams.
What? No, that's what I'm saying. You still would have had some questions about the defense. I also happen to think, and maybe you guys will disagree with me, I think had they won the Seattle game, they win yesterday. And that's because I think they knew going into yesterday's game, because of the results of the weekend, they are locked into the 5 or the 6 seed.
Yeah.
So I just think that that if they were playing in that game, because it felt like they came out sleeping and then turned it on and it was too late and Stafford made a mistake. They also had, one of Stafford's best passes, 40-yard touchdown, called off because of a questionable hold. Right after that play, they had the bomb that Troy was saying, well, not Troy, Joe Buck was saying he thought it was pass interference that would have put him in field goal range. If the margins are that thin,
and they had the fortunate bounce. I mean, it was a great block.
Oh yeah, but
field goal.
But I mean, that's the margins between the 1 seed home field throughout.
Yeah.
And starting your playoffs in Philadelphia against the defending champs.
Yeah.
Rams host the 3-win Cardinals next, and McVay says they're going to play, but we'll find out. All right, we've had a vibes shift and an MVP shift. Stafford was favored to win the MVP before the 3 interceptions, and granted it was against the Jets, but Drake Maye threw 5 touchdowns with a passer rating of 157 before resting for literally most of the second half. Here were the odds entering. It was Stafford and then Maye minus 400. Plus 180 today. Minus 400.
It's too much.
Too much, or is it just over?
Well, no, I'm saying it's too much of a shift. The MVP odds have become the betting version of win probability, which means they're mispriced. If you're having that type of week-to-week jumps, listen, I think it's pretty clear, despite a friendly show rivalry you and I have at times, KW. Sure. I think everyone would acknowledge they watch this show. I believe in Drake Maye. Yeah. I said 2 months ago that I think he's top 5 quarterback and going to be moving forward. And if Drake Maye wins MVP, I think he has had an MVP season that when you put it up against other MVP seasons, be like, oh, that's in line. It makes sense. I also think he is an MVP caliber player. My gripe is twofold. The first one is I simply think Matthew Stafford this year has been the MVP of the league and has been better. And I think if you show their season numbers, I think Matthew Stafford's season numbers are better. The total yards Drake Maye has him, the touch by, 160. The touchdowns are such a discrepancy.
That's the one that's better, really.
That is such a discrepancy. And so Stafford has him by passing yards by a lot, Drake Maye, but he has no rushing yards. So that's why I did total yards, tried to be fair.
It's 8 touchdowns. Is that monstrous?
Well, I mean, it's
8 total
I guess
touchdowns.
8 total touchdowns. I mean, it's 23% more than Drake Maye.
Well, Stafford did. Here's the interesting thing about Drake. He doesn't throw it that much. He hasn't even thrown 500 passes.
No, Stafford has
Stafford's
way more
thrown
attempts.
almost 100 more passes.
This is where, when it comes to MVP, the most important and prestigious individual honor, I do think nitpicking is fair.
Absolutely.
And this is where I think the fact that Stafford has played the 3rd hardest pass defense in the league cumulatively, and Drake's played the 32nd.
Pass defense?
Schedule.
No. 30.
Does it work out that way too?
Combined pass defense ranking of the teams, the Patriots have played the easiest cumulative pass defense. The Rams have played the 30. The Rams have played the 3rd most difficult. And then when we just do how they did against teams that have locked in playoff berths, again, it's just that Stafford's half his season has come against teams that have locked in playoff berths. And for Drake, it's the 2 Bills game, and he ran for 2 touchdowns, didn't throw for any. Again, I'm not trying to neg Drake Maye. I think Stafford's been better. But, Brew, here is my real issue that even if you think it's Maye, I think you might agree with. It feels to me, and I think this is a problem, that over the last few years, the NFL MVP discussion and then award has started working like this. Everything up until December is determining who is eligible. Who are the 3 or 4 guys that can win? 4 years ago it was Dak, Purdy, Lamar. The last year I think it was really Allen, Lamar, and I might be forgetting one person. This year it was Stafford, Maye, and Josh Allen. Some people put in that all the first 3 months of the year is determining who's eligible, and then the award is December Player of the Month of those players. That it's whoever of, and we disregard the first 3 months of the year, not in total, which is why Trevor got no shot. He wasn't eligible yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's who are the guys that are right? Who are the guys that are in the discussion at the start of December, and then the award goes to whoever has the best December. And that is not how I think the award should be done. And so that's
how do you think it should be?
Who has the best overall season? And if you like, and I think Stafford's had the best overall season, and I think that if this weekend's games were week 8, Stafford's a huge favorite. You know, if Drake's game this week and Stafford's game this week were week 8, and whatever they both did in week 8 were this year, this week, Stafford's the huge favorite. I think it's a recency bias thing that really has changed the award. I think it's how Lamar won it 2 years ago and why Lamar didn't win it last year. Like, Josh had the 6 touchdown game at the end, even though they lost. And and so that's my problem.
Well, the thing is, look, there's no official criteria.
Correct.
I'm an NBA voter, and there's no criteria, which helps. It increases the argument and the discussion which the leagues want. And then, unless everybody just follows, who they think is setting the stage or the tone, then it's each person has their own criteria, and we'll see. But I'm going to save my pick for Bruce Ballard to see. But I'll piggyback on what you said, Nick. There's an argument for Stafford. You look at the odds, and it would seem like it's over. But the argument, you made some of it. Obviously, the 12 more passing touchdowns is huge against stiffer competition. You mentioned the pass defense, which is obviously legitimate. But that's the exact strength of schedule. Yep. Rams have faced the third hardest. Patriots have faced the least hardest or the easiest schedule. He 8 interceptions, still not bad, and that's what Drake actually has. And the narrative, and that's interesting because Drake, I think some voters may feel like rightly, Drake's got obviously plenty of time to win MVPs. This isn't necessarily the right way to do it, but you look at Stafford, a guy that a lot of voters might feel like, man, he wasted most of his career in Detroit and is really a Hall of Famer. But if he doesn't get an MVP and they don't win the Super Bowl this year, there's a good chance he's not a Hall of Famer.
Correct.
And so that, I think, is a factor. Look, I'm kind of with you in that I don't really have a horse in the race like you do, but either guy has an argument. There's no question about it. You can't be mad at either guy, but right now it looks like Drake.
I also agree with that. I'm not gonna.
But your guy is in it. That's the thing.
But I'm just not gonna if you lead the league in touchdowns, you have a case. Like point blank, period. You lose games where you throw for. Did he throw for 470 yards?
He threw for 457.
57. So and he lost. So I'm like, he's 3-5. I think it's fair. That being said, common opponents was the fun graphic floating around yesterday. So for everybody, you want to say we had an easy schedule. Like, okay, well, good. We beat the Falcons and you didn't. Well, we beat the Panthers and we smoked the Panthers and you did not. So this is just common opponents.
That's
a notch in Drake's favor. Yeah.
It's good. I mean, if he got it, it wouldn't kill me. I do think right now, narrative-wise, it goes to the guy who took a 4-win team and made this massive leap versus a Super Bowl champion that we know has always been excellent and had another excellent year.
His best year, though.
And the one thing none of us have mentioned, and then I want to apologize to you.
Oh, wow. Advance that.
The one thing none of us have mentioned is the weapons argument is a notch in Drake's favor. So, you see what I'm saying? Stafford's
Absolutely.
got Devontae is a future Hall of Famer. Puka is one of the best players in the league since he came into it. We all thought that the Patriots receivers were going to be a huge problem this year. So that is something that in MVPs of past, I have used. I have used that. So that to me is that is part of the analysis in a fair way, just like who you have faced and how tough the road was is
Right.
part of the analysis. Here's what I want to apologize
Wow,
for
here we
KW.
go.
Because KW's right. It's mostly been off the air. But I have, partially joking and partially serious, bullied Kevin Wildes for not going to the mattresses because his guy has a chance to win MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And Wildes' take has been, but I'd be fine with him not winning it. And I wasn't okay with the fact that you weren't okay with your guy not winning it. And I was mean to you about it. So
Is there any like analysis behind that?
It's just we're just different. It's just it makes
He
you
wants
the way
you to admit that
it
his
makes
analysis
it
of
makes
the
it
issue
makes
was
you it
right.
makes you the reason you are who you are is because you're okay with it.
It's called being the mayor of fair.
And the reason I wouldn't be is part of who I am. So I should have just let you be. So I apologize, KW.
Feels like I got dissed there.
Didn't it a little bit?
It was like, I love sports
I'ma
and you don't
stay out
care.
of
No, that's not what I
It just felt like I got
I
dissed.
fight for my friends.
No,
you
You
don't.
don't. If Brew was getting beat up, you would be like, hey, maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't. And I would jump in. I don't know the whole story. I could see
Maybe
the other
Bruce
guy.
started it.
I don't know.
Let's look ahead to Sunday night. Win and you're in. Ravens and Pittsburgh. Baltimore more than field goal favorites. Okay, that was on Lamar's status. Welcome, Greg Jennings, Super Bowl champion. Brewer, are you surprised your Ravens are favored in this game?
Not one bit. They should be favored. They're going to win this game.
All right.
With or without Lamar.
Wow.
You said it yesterday, Nick. That's no shot at Lamar, but Tyler Huntley, two of their most impressive games have been with him at quarterback. They've scored 71 points in the two games, and they've both been against playoff teams, the Bears and the Packers, and they won. Now, obviously, he's not even close to as good as Lamar Jackson, but this year he has run.
Yep.
He's run, I think he ran for 53 yards in the game against the Bears and 60 yards this past weekend. So that's an element that Lamar, because of injuries or whatever, hasn't really brought lately to them. So I think they can win because Huntley will be fine. And obviously with Huntley, it's not even going to be a question as to who is the bell cow. It's going to be Derrick Henry. There will be no forgetting about Derrick Henry if Tyler Huntley's the quarterback. And then on the flip side, I just think the Steelers' injuries are huge. Like, if DK Metcalf were playing, then probably, especially with Lamar's status up in the air, you'd probably favor Pittsburgh. He had almost 150 yards against them last game, and he was a big difference why they beat the Ravens. But then Calvin Austin might be out too, the second best receiver. The big Darnell Washington, the huge tight end, is out, and TJ Watt, I'm thinking won't be back. So I just think the Steelers are so banged up. I think their morale is low after last week. So yeah, I feel confident about the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they're favorite. We witnessed the worst possible version offensively of the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, and we witnessed the most dominating version of the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion, on Sunday. And so with that being said, being a prisoner of the moment, if I'm to make a wager, which you do often, I would put my money on the Ravens because of the style in which they will approach this game and the sustainability of that. Like, you talked about DK Metcalf being gone. It just changes the way you play call if you're Arthur Smith and how you methodically try to move the ball down the field. You already are not a big play offense, so naturally you're going to have to dink and dunk and work your way systematically down the field on a defense that's been playing really good football. And then if you're the Ravens, you don't push the ball down the field with Huntley if he is the starter come Sunday, but you can do everything else within your playbook because you still have Derrick Henry. So I like the Ravens in this situation.
Aaron Rodgers cannot lose this game.
If
Aaron Rodgers
Lamar's
cannot-
not playing,
can't.
certainly.
Well, what if Lamar's playing?
Well, that's different.
If you lose to like a great all-time
lose to
quarterback
Lamar.
and you're like it's like a passing the baton moment and you're like, I'm a 4-time MVP, you're a 2-time MVP.
If Lamar plays and the Steelers lose, there is no shame in this loss. The shame is in the Browns loss.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I agree with KW entirely that if Tyler Huntley is the starter, Mike Tomlin has an obligation to make sure his defense can shut down a Tyler Huntley-led offense, which means slow down Derrick Henry. Just be like, pencil him in for 128. You know what, Derrick? We're going to spot you 128 and 1 touchdown, but you're not getting a yard past it.
Yeah.
And then Aaron, can you get us to 20 points? Like, that's what you were brought here for.
He has to.
I certainly, at 3.5, you mentioned the gambling perspective. The Steelers in a home divisional game catching more than a field goal. I like the Steelers. The fact that I don't know how much the line would change
if Lamar was playing.
Yeah, like I feel like this is pricing. I feel like the market expects Huntley to play, but also the line. I don't think the Steelers or the Ravens were all of a sudden, if they announced Lamar was playing, would be 5.5-point favorites. Like it's a weird spot because I also think the general public. Everyone knows Lamar Jackson is exponentially better than Tyler Huntley. But I think the general public, and you guys seem to be alluding to it, also feel like the Ravens might play a smarter brand of football with Tyler Huntley out there rather than a somewhat compromised Lamar, because with a somewhat compromised Lamar, they seem to call a game as if they have a regular Lamar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And with Tyler Huntley, they call a game as if we're only allowed to throw 12 passes. So we're going to use them judiciously, and we're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry, which is what I think you want them to do and other people want them to do.
Before we go on to big picture, spot bonus alert.
I was about to say,
Spot bonus alert.
who do I owe?
Dude, where's Lamar?
Who was
Spot
that?
bonus alert.
Whoever did that, it's $50. Hubs?
Congratulations.
Hubs doesn't get it.
No, Hubs, you do not
Hubs
get
is
it.
an executive.
There
He
you go.
doesn't get it. He
It
makes
goes
way
on
too
to the
much
next
money.
spot.
Next spot bonus is worth $100 now. Yeah, sorry, Hubs.
Moving on. We don't know Lamar's status for the weekend. Are we sure we know it for the future? Mike Sando writing in The Athletic. Here's the headline. The Ravens season is riding on week 18. Lamar Jackson's future could be too. Here's the quote from one of our favorites, an anonymous agent. Lamar being traded could be similar to the Mavs trading Luka. Okay. The Mavs were complaining about Luka's toughness, taking care of his body, work ethic. Luka gets moved. He loses all that weight. Debatable. He gets in great shape, and he's got a new lease on life. Lamar might be the same. Congratulations, anonymous agent. One of the worst takes of the year.
Well, look, of course I read the whole article. I think it was Malik Willis's agent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of Malik Willis
Malik
in
Willis
there.
to Baltimore.
Trading Lamar for 3 picks, signing Malik Willis. That was.
He's watching. He's like, what?
Yeah, that's a great take, bro.
How do you figure that out?
Nick, should Week 18 impact Lamar's future with the Ravens?
Absolutely. So, listen, and I am trying my damnedest to be as fair as possible on this. So I even ran this by Wilds before the show because I wanted to make sure I didn't have a blind spot on it. But I think there are only 2 possible explanations, 2 ways to look at this season and what is happening right now with Lamar. Option 1, Lamar Jackson has suffered 5 different distinct injuries this year that were all severe enough that he had to either miss practice time or miss game or multiple games. That is one option. The hamstring, the ankle, the knee, the toe, and now the back. And I'm not even counting the illness. So the 5 injuries that have caused him to miss time, 2 of which have caused him to miss game. That is one option. The other option is, for the 3rd time in Lamar's career as a Raven, in the midst of a contract negotiation, he is leveraging to a degree, potentially, his end-of-season health status in aims of either proving his worth or getting what he wants from Baltimore. To me, there isn't a 3rd option. Now, maybe you guys are 99% it's the first one, 1% the second one. Either one of those options, I would be very hesitant to give that player a brand new, extended, top of the market, fully guaranteed contract, which is what he wants. Either with 2 years left on your deal and playoffs on the line, your slow playing recovery, which it seems like the team, and by the way, I defended him on it in 2022. I was on the show saying I wouldn't play either. They've owed you money for years. You won an MVP. They haven't paid you. Don't put yourself out there. Or he's coming off his worst season of his career. He's suffered 5 different injuries, and he's not available at the end of the year, and he turns 29 in a week. And oh yeah, he doesn't really run anymore. Either way, I wouldn't want to pay that guy $63 million fully guaranteed into his mid-30s. So if we don't see Lamar back and see Lamar look really good, I'm not super interested in extending him a longer contract, which he very clearly wants.
See, I think you're premature, though.
Okay.
I mean, what if he doesn't play Week 18, they win, and then he plays in the playoffs and looks good and they get to the championship game or the Super Bowl? Then it's totally different.
Sure, absolutely.
So to me, the answer is no, because I'm leaving open the option of him playing in the playoffs. I lean toward your first option of he's been hurt. The second option to me is untenable. It'd be one thing if you said like he was still in his rookie deal and had never made any money or, real money, relatively speaking. Now, and I'm not saying he shouldn't want this next big contract, but you've got 2 years left on your deal, okay? And you've already gotten a $20-something million contract. And I know he's competitive. Any year, you should be like, if I can get out there and play, I'm going for the Super Bowl. But this year in particular, because the field is so even and wide open in the AFC, so like I said, I believe it's the first option with the injuries. If it's the second option, that is ridiculous. That you're sitting out legitimate games where you have a chance to get to the Super Bowl because of a contract when you've already made over $200 million.
Can I just ask you a very quick question? If it is the first option, would that not give you some pause? Because let's say he doesn't play Week 18 and they lose. So he doesn't have the chance to do the playoffs piece of it. You wouldn't worry that Lamar, that his body is deteriorate if he suffered 5 distinct injuries this year?
And that's interesting because they were all minor. I mean, he played. Yeah. He didn't play well, but he played. We didn't see. He doesn't look like he can move.
3 of them were minor, and 2 of them he's missed games.
Yeah, the one, the hamstring was
and
obviously,
now the back.
But that can happen. That's interesting, but I would probably look past it. Was he 29?
He turns 29 next week.
Yeah, so he's still relatively young.
So for me, I'm not moving on from Lamar. I'm just simply not moving on from Lamar. I don't think the second option that you threw out there is even, I'm with Brew on that one. I don't even think that's on the board. However, I do believe there has been a loss of respect in the current regime that's present.
In which
for
direction?
Lamar.
That he's lost respect for them?
Really both ways, to be honest. But if I'm Lamar and I'm just watching him, what he's willing to do versus what he's not willing to do, if there's a different coach, play caller alike, and you have a guy like Lamar and he's hurt, I just believe that there's a competitive advantage that he would feel like he provides for that new regime because of them really depending on him. Not to say that John Harbaugh and this regime isn't, that he would be more willing to play for because there's a different voice. To the writer who wrote this, and once you start comparing it to Luka, the reason why it's such a big deal is because of what we felt about Luka, right? And then he goes to the Lakers and he decides to what? Let me get in shape. Let me lock in. Well, I'm not taking accountability away from Luka Doncic on that. Neither would I be taking it away from Lamar. But if it took a difference in management and who you were walking into the building to get you to change what you're doing and how you're approaching who you are and what we need you to be, then that's a problem for your culture. That's a problem in-house. And I think that's what they're dealing with. Lamar has gotten to the point where he is the face, he is everything, and he just doesn't take the same. And I know I'm speaking for Lamar, but there's a sense of entitlement there. I just believe that there's a sense of entitlement there.
Listen, Someone in the organization clearly thinks there is, or else that article doesn't get written. You know, what you're saying, and I know people, I know Lamar fans out there think that I'm being unfair. I truly do not mean to be. But what I will tell you is this. If I am, it is John Harbaugh's fault. Because the reason that I am drawing these conclusions is in 2021, amidst the contract negotiation, Lamar hurt his ankle. John Harbaugh sat at that podium and said, it is not that he's going to test it out for week 15. If not, we'll have him back the following week. He did not play again that year. In 2022, amidst a contract negotiation, Lamar hurt his knee. John Harbaugh sat in front of the media and said, it's not a season-ending type of thing. Someone with the Ravens told Schefter, if we make the playoffs, Lamar's playing, and then he was not there. This season, Lamar hurts his hamstring. And by the way, in 2022, Lamar then had to tweet out, no, I have a grade 2 PCL, almost grade 3, remember? Yep. He then went and corrected it. This year, Lamar hurts his hamstring. John Harbaugh says, we'll have our quarterback back after the bye. Then it turns out he is not back after the bye. And then a week ago, he's asked about Lamar's back, and on Monday he said, avoided serious injury. It's a bad bruise. Don't get me wrong, it's a bad bruise. Then he misses a game. So I am not creating this out of thin air. It is every time this has happened, the head coach has messaged a level of optimism that has simply not come to fruition. So there is something amiss here. And if I'm Lamar and I'm hearing guys like Nick Wright on TV, I'm not trying to question someone's toughness, but put out in the ether, is this negotiation? And I know how legitimate these injuries are, assuming they are. I don't want to play for John Harbaugh. I'm furious that this article was written. You're saying and so that to me is if they lose Sunday and he doesn't play, the one thing I am fully confident on is we have seen the last game that John Harbaugh coaches Lamar Jackson.
I believe that.
Well, look,
now, whether I don't know who wins if it's a power struggle.
Well, it
but
shouldn't even be a question.
I would always keep the player.
Harbaugh should be gone.
I would always keep the player.
Especially at this position.
Yes, no question. And here's the thing, too, Nick, quickly. If what you said is true, you said I would not want to play for John Harbaugh. That shouldn't be top of mind for Lamar Jackson. It should be playing for himself and the teammates.
Yeah, go win a Super Bowl.
I mean, even if you don't like the coach, and I'm not saying I have no idea what he feels about Harbaugh, but even if you don't like the coach, your top of mind should not be, I'm not doing it for him. Do it for yourself and do it for your teammates. So I think he'll be back in a Ravens uniform for the long haul. We'll see if they get a contract. I got him for 2 more years.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.